Good morning, Fountain of Life Church. It's an honor to be with you, whether in person or virtually. And so thank you to Dr. G for this invitation to share just some thoughts, some impressions that God has laid on my heart, submit to you to test and discern and receive what the Spirit of God would have you receive. I believe we are at another really pivotal change in epoch seasons, EPOCH. It's really just a whole new era that we're entering into. And because the Spirit of God is always contextualizing his manifestation, his work with the present age, the present culture, we're in a very vulnerable time, but also exciting time. And I believe that this season that we are entering into, the Black church is going to be instrumental in leading this. I believe with all that has happened and captured the country's attention, unfortunately it has taken this long. But we are at a stage where in our history as a country where similar to the time when Emmett Till's death and the newspaper reporting of all of this was broadcast to the country. We're in a stage where America is beginning to lean in, and there's a generation that is being raised up with a very sensitive social conscience, who sees injustice, who sees oppression throughout the world, but here locally. And that's a heavy weight for all of us who have not experienced the depths of trauma and generational trauma and historical trauma that the Black community here in America has experienced. And so as we non-Black people have leaned in and heard and listened and wept and educated ourselves by sitting under the teachings and the stories of Black leaders, Black authors, Black movie and entertainment leaders, sharing the story of the Black experience here in America that has not had the scale and scope of saturation here in America. We're at a time when the Black church, I believe, gets to really lead this next season of time. I believe that something unique that the Black church offers is the full expression of humanity, what it means to be human. There in the Black church, there is laughter and there are tears. There's great exuberance and full expression, freedom to express oneself as they are moved by the Spirit, as the Spirit of God is healing them, as the music therapy of the praise team and the choir is singing over them, and as the preaching and ministry of the word is coming forth from the pulpit, that there's something really dynamic in the Black church tradition that is largely void in contemporary churches. And it's this full expression of just being human and being fully present. In the non-Black church, in the Western traditions, we have reduced it to very ceremonial, liturgical sorts of expressions and routines. But I believe there's something about just the freedom to be, even the travailing. And sometimes some of you who maybe grew up in those long church services that were 3, 4, 5, 6 hours long on Sundays, besides the midweek stuff, that all of this, I believe, it created a space where there of safety and a space for just freedom to be. And that is a gift that I believe the rest of the world and the non-Black church can really be leaning into in this time. I also believe we're in a time where, just like when Moses came along, we have the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the First Testament. And when we see, if we believe that Moses received this revelation and was able to pass this on, it came at a time, all of that revelation of the creation narrative and what God's plans were. It came at a time when the people of God were an enslaved people. They were an oppressed people. And if we think about, for 400 years, a people they're experiencing tremendous oppression. And they're beginning as a community, a collective group to cry out to their God, the God of their ancestors. And they begin to cry out for deliverance. They begin to cry out for liberation. And God hears their prayers. He hears their cries. And but his response, him coming down, it says, is actually Moses going. And Moses is someone who had a measure of privilege, a measure of education and training. But he went and he spoke with great prophetic unction by the Spirit of God. He spoke to Pharaoh, he spoke to power, said, "Let my people go." And out of that, there came a journey where God begins to reveal who they are as a people. When you are oppressed, when you are enslaved to the systems and abusive power structures of any society, you lose yourself. And so we can see how God's intention in his process of redemption, he begins by telling the creation story. And for Moses to begin with a reminder of where they came from, I believe that this is also paralleling and speaking to where we're at in this particular day and age. That the African American community here is really seeking out who they are. They're seeking an identity because they realize how much has been stripped, how much has been lost, how much has been stolen. And the motherland tours to Africa are great, and they're a piece of that. The African American history course that Nehemiah hosts in Justified Anger is also a piece of that. The tapping into the deep roots and even some of the African spirituality that is good. Some of it may be have some perversions, but just the whole expression of a triune self, body, soul, and spirit. That this is something that the African American community is going through, and to see foundational to all of this is the identity work. Who are you? I believe the two most important questions are, who is Christ in you, and who are you in Christ? And I believe that the Black church is going to be instrumental in instilling this transcendent identity that is even beyond just a racial identity and some sort of geographic identity and social construct, but it includes that, but it is even deeper, and it is testifying of the new creation, the new birth that is in Christ, because he is our true liberator. So I believe identity work is going deeper. I also believe that we are in a time where so many non-Black members of the community and society are leaning in. They're asking kind of like, what can I do? What can I do to be an ally? What can I do to appease my conscience? What can I do to support this efforts? How can I not be racist? Where they have all of these sorts of questions. So they find their one Black friend and they ask those questions, or they lean in and they come to some webinar, or they read some books, or they attend a Justified Anger Nehemiah event, or volunteer with the organization. because they're leaning in saying, "What must I do?" And I was thinking of the man who came to Jesus, said, "What must to the early church apostles and said, what must I do to be saved?" And they said, "Repent and be baptized." And if we break that down, repent, change the way you think. Metanoia, change the way you think. There's a way you've been thinking about life, certain values you have lived by, certain systems and structures you have submitted to, but you have to actually repent. You have to change the way you think, and be baptized. That there is an immersion into a whole new identity. There's an immersion into an entirely different version of yourself that you have not yet previously known. And so you might need to give up, dear ally, you might need to give up a hold on a previous version of who you thought you were, and everything that you thought made you everything that contributed, your privilege, and all of the opportunities that were afforded you because of the color of your skin in this particular country. That there is a certain there are certain dynamics and there are certain things that you may have to let go of. And it is why those who seek to save their lives will actually lose it. And those who lose their lives for his sake will find it. And so I believe we're in a time where there is a repenting. There is a changing of the way you think. And even as Jesus points so many times, whether to the Samaritans who were of a different race and of a different sort of creed, had a different tradition, but he points to them often and says, there's some lessons. Do as the Good Samaritan did, being a good neighbor. That there is this leaning in to people who are different than us, people who come from different cultures, come from different traditions, different denominations, and a leaning in. And I think that we are in a time when the non-Black community has to lean in and really repent. We have to learn from a people who are different, ones that we have not been socialized into just inherent trust, and we have to follow. We have to trust what the Black leaders, the Black community are saying. This is a better way of life, a better way of just collective communal living, a better way forward for us as a country. And I think out of that, another comment that I would just make is, I believe we're in a time where many non-Black allies are leaning in and they're asking, again, what can I do? What are some points? What are some steps to follow? Can you print that out or type that up and be very reductionistic in some points and in some steps so they could follow? And if they could just read, Abraham Kendi or some other modern author, that then they could have their conscience appeased and they could claim that they're an ally and not racist. But I don't believe God gives us steps. I believe that God gives us a plot. I believe instead of giving us points, 3 points in a poem, like in a sermon, I believe Jesus gives us a plot. He begins to invite us into a story, a narrative that is bigger than all of us. And it is in the story we begin to find ourselves. It's why we identify so much with movies and poetry and literature, because it's story. It's why the testimony is so powerful. We overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony, because your story, your anecdote, the narratives, when a Eurocentric standards set by the academy and academics has elevated data and all of these sorts of scientific enlightenment era sort of arrogance, that we emphasize data, we emphasize points, we emphasize steps and processes. That's fruit of capitalism as well. That we emphasize all of these things when Jesus is not giving us so much points. He's not so much giving us steps. He's giving us a plot, and he's giving us a path. Jesus says he is the way. He is the way. He's not saying just this is the way and here's all of the steps to follow. If you wanted to reduce the Sermon on the Mount to that, or the Lord's Prayer or something else, we all try to pick and choose and reduce preaching, reduce the scriptures to just steps and principles, but really we're supposed to be following a person. And I believe we're in a time when you as the a traditional black church, and you as black leaders can really free yourself from needing to give some sort of steps and points for people who just want their conscience appeased. I believe we're in a time when you could really offer a path. You can offer the plot. Share your story. Share your anecdotes. Share the narrative, the history of your people, of your family. Share the testimony of what God has done. Share how even in the perversion of missionaries also being masters, that God was still God enough to give you the seed of the Messiah, to be able to see that Jesus speaks to them. Jesus spoke to your ancestors, and Jesus spoke to you. And it is in that revealing that all of a sudden there's liberation. There is something that you felt. There is something that your ancestors felt in the black church, that despite all the odds and despite all the exclusion, there was something that was transformative. So share your story. Speak up and share the story. I believe that it is not just the professional pedigree, but it is the common people and the plot. It's the common people and their story of how God met them. He delivered them. He didn't just deliver them from an experience, but he kept them through it. And to see that there's coming an end, to see that there is coming a day of liberation, just as there was for Israel. I also believe that in this plot and in this pointing to a person and a path, that there is a way, that there are not steps as in points to follow, but there are steps of a person to follow. And this is why I believe it is a great time and a season for the non-black community here in America to really follow black leaders and to follow the lead of the black community. You practice justice and mercy, restorative justice. You embody family and community. You embody the expression of the full self. And so instead of giving just steps and points, you're giving them a path to follow that is you. And they have to follow, we have to follow you. And as we all follow Jesus, Paul said it this way, follow me as I follow Christ. And it is in that expression, it is in that experience of abiding that is where we begin to fulfill what the scriptures share. And so for us as a people, for us as a modern America, to see this moment and to seize this moment and to follow you, we need you to live. We need you to lead in vulnerability, and with great courage. We trust you. We are needing you to speak and to share your truth, to share your story, and to point people to your God. We're in a time where I believe the Black church is going to experience an awakening, as they have the Black church as an institution has had to be decolonized and has had to go through all sorts of refining, because so much of the institutionalization has come from white, Western, institutional sort of thinking. But if you are liberated, if you are freed from all that was just a white normative expression, what could you be? And I implore you, by the Spirit of God and with the Spirit of God, to explore with him, at the leadership of Reverend Dr. Alex G., and to go on a journey where he begins to reveal your identity and begins to empower you on a whole new path that has been uncharted, free and decolonized from what you inherited, but yet holding fast to the testimony and to the ways of Jesus. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I pray this blesses you. I pray God blesses you. We are looking to you. We are watching you. We are following you. And thank you to you, Dr. G, for your leadership.